right, so let's continue. Just before we continue, I was driving with my kids, and they had me thinking about our discussion on African culture and all of that. So I was driving with my kids, and then I mentioned that, oh yeah, this aunt of mine did this. Then my son was like, but is she your aunt? Why do you call her aunt? I'm like, actually, no, she's my sister-in-law. Then he's like, what do you mean? Then I was like, no, he's married to my cousin brother. Oh, and it's like, and then it's like, no, but how is that your cousin brother? He's older than you, and he's from the older generation. And I'm like, yes, but because he comes from the sister, it was a family of brothers and sisters. So my mother is from the male, he is from the sister. So because he's coming from a sister, his hierarchy is then lower than my mom. So he refers to my mom as his mom, which then means him and I are brother and sister. So the relationship I have with him is very brother-sister. So my son is like, you treat him like he's your brother. You should have more respect for him, like the way you treat your mom. I'm like, but he's my brother. So, the whole way from home, he was like, Then he said to me, Mama, we are cousins, and they're just cousins, uncles, and aunts. And I'm like, no. That's what the Westerners say. You know, for us, it's different. And the way you'll interact with a particular relative, even if sometimes my younger cousins, I will call them uncle, because in hierarchy, they are above me because of the African culture. That whole social capital came in, and I was like, yeah, this is a serious issue that we have about explaining these and the importance of these relationships as well, you know. So anyway, yeah, it was an interesting ride trying to explain that. Okay, so what are we doing? Oh, before we close off with the World Bank, something else I was just quickly informed of. So sometimes, so when you download your World Bank, so let's say we use this option where you want to put it in Excel. So I still have it here, good. So you know how it will come out like this with the dots, these dots. Stata doesn't like those dots because Stata will read it as a variable, but that means it's blank, there's no data. So ordinarily you would then remove these dots, right, manually. But you don't have to. Before you download, if you go to format numbers, so this is where you'll be at here. Yeah. So you've got your layout display. If you do format numbers, you can put blank. And then when you download the data, it won't have those dots. So it's already ready to go and put into Stata. So yeah, I also learned that new today. So I have made a note about that to include in my slides all right. So now we are going to look at, firstly, in the slides that I've put in the Google folder, you'll see there's a slide on appending data sets. We are not going to be practicing that. I just want to show you the difference between appending data sets and merging. Usually with panel data, you are merging in because you have the same country name or the same municipality name and the same year and everything. So you want to merge different variables into your data set. But with appending, typically, you'll find that you use this a lot with surveys. So because the surveys will have asked similar questions with similar responses. Like, so they'll ask, do you agree that the political leader is a good leader? And then you'll have agree, strongly agree, neither, disagree, strongly disagree. So all the surveys for that country, if they are taken every 2 years or every 5 years, they will have asked the same question, right? So you can append you can append those surveys because maybe you want to see how these trends have been changing over time. So you do have the different years. So you can actually append your data sets, and you just use the command append. So I'm just going to, I put the command in the slide. Yes, Tuani.
Yes, yeah. Another thing, for example, if you work with a data that has a linker scale, say like those strongly agree, like we cannot even use ERSA to work on them, like check on them, like check blanks and everything on ERSA. When it's done and you save it, then you can always easily transport it into your state.
Okay.
Maybe like if you find it difficult for you maybe to navigate around the syntax and commands, you can always use Excel, have it prepared the data, then you check it to do your analysis.
Thanks, Tawani. And that's true. And so I'm very old-fashioned, and I will always want to make sure, I want to double-check my data. So I actually prefer to work in Excel first, make sure I clean my data there before I send it to Stata, right? But then my colleague, who's really good with, coding and everything, for him it's easier to just do everything in Stata or in whichever software, right? So everyone is different. You must work to your strengths. And so if you are comfortable in first doing it, doing it the long way in Stata or whatever, and then putting it in Excel and then transferring it to Stata, but do it, right? But if you are one of those where, you're quite comfortable and you trust that Stata is doing what you are commanding it to do, then you do it in Stata. So I'm just going to go to one of my old data sets. It's Afrobarometer. So I was doing a book chapter on Afrobarometer on democracy and development, and there were certain key responses. So Afrobarometer it starts from 2003. I think it's got round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 9. But the previous rounds didn't have a lot of the countries. So you'd find it's got 14 African countries, 16. But starting from round 5, they now had about 36 countries and everything. And I wanted to do it for Sub-Saharan Africa. So that's why I started my data. And when you're writing your paper, you have to explain why you're using these rounds instead of those rounds. Why are you starting at this year? So all of that is important. So for me, it was because from round 5, they had a larger sample of African countries. And since I want to look at the trends of democracy and perceptions of people's democracy and how they view, it was perceptions of citizens' attitudes on economic growth and development within their countries, and how that is then affecting their perceptions of democracy, whether they actually buy into democracy within their countries, or because they feel that their quality of life is being affected, this is now also making them change their views towards institutions within their country. So that's kind of what the chapter was on. And Afrobarometer has got the sort of questions that I was looking for. So I had to pull them out, right? So, I'll open one do file from Afrobarometer. It's a survey data set. There are a lot of questions. So I had to pull it out. And you can see the first thing I did was to drop these countries. Why I dropped them? Because I checked the rounds I wanted to use, and I saw that in some rounds, these countries were not coming up. So then I don't want them, because then they will cause a mismatch when I append my data sets. So I dropped those countries, and then you can see here, in some, can I make that bigger? Font. Preferences. I think this is font. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, there we go. Is that better? Okay, right. So as I was saying, again, in round 5, I noticed they were calling Cabo Verde, Cape Verde, whereas across most of the surveys, they were using this terminology. So I had to change that naming within this round, right? Again, Eswatini, Swaziland, what I told you about Cote d'Ivoire. Here the problem was, what was the problem?
The apostrophe.
Yeah, the apostrophe, exactly. The apostrophe, something as small as that, eh? And when I first did it and I appended it, it kept giving me this, this error. Like, and I was like, I don't understand. So I literally had to take the country names in each data set, put them together, and then I noticed, oh, that apostrophe is different. So sometimes when you're doing your research, a lot of your time is spent on understanding your data. You need to explore your data, especially if it's survey data where there are a lot of responses, a lot of data, a lot of information. World Bank has a lot of information. You explore that data in depth, you understand how it's set up, and then it'll be easier to use it, right? And then what these, yes, Darlington?
I think it's also good to be noting all those things that you be doing, so it's what you are going to be writing in the section.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. So I had to put all of this in my data section. And also why the do file was important was because when I went into the when I now wanted to clean the other waves, I already had the do file. It was just changing this here and there and here and there. And then the waves don't come with years in them, and I wanted to append, and I wanted to do my analysis to show change in attitudes over a year. So I had to generate a year. So for each, round 5 was in 2015, round 6 was in 2017, so that's what I did with all the rounds, right? But again, the code is there. So when I opened it to clean round 6, I would just change that to 2016, right? And then I started looking at, and then what I was cleaning was just, I generated the age, labeled it like this, and then this is what I do across all the survey data sets is I use the same, the variable must be coded the same, basically. So in some surveys, you'll find that they'll ask the question, but they'll have reversed how the responses are. So they'll ask you that, do you think this leader is a good leader? In the one survey, they'll have said agree, strongly agree, agree, neither, disagree, strongly disagree. In another survey, they'll have switched it and started with disagree. That's important as well, because that will also cause a problem when you append your data set. So you'll need to then see across your surveys which is the common direction, and in the one way it's not common, you simply switch it so that it's following the convention of all the others, right? So this is basically just me cleaning all my data sets. So once I had, and pulling out, because there's a lot of questions. So I was pulling out all the responses that I was interested in and making sure, because surveys as well, the other issued surveys, is they are going to sometimes ask a similar question but word it differently. So you also have to be careful about that, because then it becomes a subjective decision basically from you. What you can do is you can use that question and then code it the same way as the other one. You're not really manipulating or doing anything, any damage to your data set.
Yeah, sorry, Prof. It has nothing to do with appending or merging, but I was reminded of this question on the treatment of neutral responses.
Yeah, the neither or either.
Yes, I think it's a similar thing, right? So one researcher, one article I was reading rather, was trying to create a binary.
Yes, and we didn't know where to put.
Yeah, so how do you treat that? Because
yes, because neither either means, you're sitting on the fence. It's very subjective. So sometimes if you're interested more in the positive responses, you can include it with the negative responses. But then you must, in your data section, you must say that this is how I created the binary. One is for yes, and then I grouped the negatives and those that didn't have an opinion, because you don't have an opinion anyway, right? Together. Or you can just run all three as a robustness to show that even when I look at the ones that don't have an opinion, my results are still consistent with the binary result. So you can run your estimations like that.
So some might argue that
Yeah.
and just drop the myth.
Yes, so I had that problem. When I submitted one, the reviewer, because I had kept the don't knows, the reviewer sent it back and is like, why are you keeping the don't knows? They don't know anything. They're not adding any value. Drop them. So I had to rerun everything without the don't knows. Luckily, it didn't change. Usually your don't knows aren't that many. So it didn't really change the outcome. So, I just, changed. I did what the reviewer wanted, right? I mean, I want the paper to get published. So, but I had a sort of in a footnote where I said, even when I include the don't knows, my results are the same. Results are available on request, or if you want, you can put them in the appendix as well. Yes, I think.
On the I don't know, I actually wanted to ask because I saw in the due file down there when they were asked about age. I think some responded with 998 and some responded with negative 1. Yeah.
Yes, these ones.
Yeah, then you coded it 4. So I just wanted to ask if it had a meaning.
No. So it meant they didn't know. Or it meant, so 998 means don't know. 999 I think was missing, missing. They didn't put anything. I can't remember what -1 is, but it will be in the code book. And you can see that I greened it out. So I actually don't include it in my data, but I put it there in case the reviewer comes back and says, add them in. So I just wanted the code there so that it's easy for me to rerun the code. But yeah, if the age, if you don't know your age, you're not going to help me, especially because I wanted to create these categories of young, middle-aged, elderly. The 4 is there that don't know, but it won't come out because I didn't run it there. I didn't create the category, so it won't come out. Yeah.
If you don't report with age, it will be a missing value. But to avoid confusion, for instance, StatSA would put in general -999, right? And this can be either for income or for consumption, right? So your consumption or your income is not 99. Right? It simply says that that person is not willing to report that, or they don't really know the information. So it's a good practice to check the questionnaire on how they capture those things, and you just replace it with a missing value, which is a good instead.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
yeah, you just do it.
yeah. So it's don't know, missing valuables, and it was also don't want to report. They had that category in a lot of these questions, especially because they are also on political issues and asking about your income as well. Some just don't want, so that's how they are coded. So for some people, they are interested to know this particular, why didn't you want to report and all of that, but most of the times you really want to know, okay, within this age group, this is what was happening, right? There was something else that Eleni said that triggered, but I can't remember because I spoke too much. But anyway, so this is, right? So then from there, they ask a question, are you happy with the direction? Yeah, so I had to put the questions because there's so many questions. So I would put notes to myself to remind me what that variable was actually capturing. So they had this question, would you say that the country is going in the wrong direction or going in the right direction, right? And then I would just code it again. I didn't bother with the don't knows, don't want to report missing values. They have got country's direction, and I would just code it. So this is what I was doing. And I was only coding all the information that I wanted that was similar across the waves that I was using. And then I would save that data set, and then at the end, I append. So that at the end of the day, I've got South Africa with round 5, round 6, round 7, round 8, round 9 in one file. And I can then see how these attitudes, they're not following the same people, which is why we are appending. So just to see how in general, How are the attitudes changing over time? And is it the argument that if those that are not happy with the direction of the country, those that are not happy with the public provision of goods, those that are not happy with their subjective well-being, are they associated with negative democratic attitudes, or there's actually no association at all? So then once you have all that, you can play around with descriptive stats like bar graphs, correlation graphs, and you can run logit regressions as well. So that was me building the data, but the one I wanted to actually show you was this do file when I append. Is that the one? No, that's not the one. That's when I was doing the analysis. Where's my append? Oh, here we go. Yeah, appended data. There we go. So once you've got your data set and everything, where is my append? Oh, sorry, I know where I put it. I put it at the end of Afrobarometer R9. Okay, so it's at the end here. So at the end of each, because there's a lot of information in these surveys, so at the end of each round, I would put in this command keep. And keep is telling Stata keep only these variables. And it's important because when you append, all your variables must match. So if you've got one variable that is in one wave and it's not in the other waves, you will not be able to append. You'll get an error message saying this variable is missing, right? So you'll find that under each of my 4 waves of do files, at the end, I'm keeping exactly the same variables, the country, the year, and all the variables that I created, and they are all coded similarly. There was the one that I didn't pick up, that it was coded differently. When I tried to append, Stata highlighted that particular variable. When I went back to my waves, I found that in one of the waves they had switched the way they respond to that question, right? So I've created all my variables, named them the save. I've kept the variables I want to use. I've saved all my rounds, and then I take the first round 5, and then I just append. So you use your first round, and then you append, and when you do that, you have your new complete data set, and you can save it as a new file. So I've got that example with the command in the slides that I put in the Google folder for those of you that are going to, come across the situation where you want to use survey data and you want to append, right? Yes, Hannah.
Prof, what slides is it in?
Huh? I put the slides in the Google folder. It's I called it Stata Practical. It's a PDF. Yeah, I called it Stata Practical. I hope it's there. Yeah? Are you sure? Okay, let us put this. So okay. So let me quickly add this. I thought I uploaded this yesterday. Guest lecture, ERSA, slides. This Data Practical, is it not in there? Okay, so it will be there now. Sorry about that. This is what happens when you do last minute work, guys. Okay, it's in there now. All right, so that was appending. So now we're going to start using our data. So I have put in our Google folder this data set this do file called ERSA file do. That's the one I would like you to pull open in your Stata, right? So this here, you can say clear to get rid of what we were doing in the morning, and then you can click on the do file and open that ERSA do file. So you'll open that, you say file, open, and find waiters. So it will be in your Google folder, and then you can bring out your ERSA do file so that you have that do file. Oh, should I do it again? Here, this little icon here with the pen, it's a do file, new do file. If you click on it, it's going to give you the option to open. You're not creating a new one, you are opening an already existing do file. And I want you to open it in this Stata file so that you can run it. Because if you open it outside of this data file, it won't run because it doesn't know where it's pulling data from. And we are going to be putting data into this data file. So once you have it, let me know. I've already got mine. Okay, has everyone pulled in the ERSA do file? It will be in your Google folder. I added it this morning. Okay. No. The do file. Yeah. The ERSA, it should say ERSA do file. That's the one I want you to open. Yeah, that's the one I want opened, the ERSA do file. Because this is the file that you're going to append or use tomorrow for your analysis. You'll just add whatever else you need. So we're going to start running the command. So, but I needed to put the other commands that take time. That would take you a lot of time. I thought you could, but maybe you can't. Let me see. Let me try. Do you have to download it first? Sorry, it was the do file, right? Oh, man. File. Open. Oh, but you know why? Because my Google Drive is there, so I would be able to pull. Whereas that's a link. So that's why you probably have to download it first. Yeah. So if it was your Google Drive, that would be your directory that pulled this from my Google Drive. But that is a link. So that's why it won't work for you guys. Okay. I understand now. Okay. So you do have to download it. Create your own folder on your desktop or pull it from downloads wherever. It's because it works for me because it's my Google Drive. So I can open it in my Google Drive. Tell me when you're all ready. I don't want to leave anyone behind because we all need to be on the same page with this. And by the way, this took me a long time to learn. Merging datasets, I hate merging datasets. The errors that come up, oh my God, they're so frustrating. So you know what you do? This is why in academia, you always have to be strategic, right? So if you are a good teller of a story, pair yourself up with a good person who knows how to use data. Because the likelihood is that that person who likes to do the data analysis hates writing the story about, you see, exactly. Play to your strengths, right? So now, I will collaborate with Eleni because I know Eleni is going to bring in a lot of information on policy, on the policy angle. So whatever we are discussing or whatever we decide to come up together to work on together, if there is micro data involved, I know she's good at that. If it's macro data, I can do that. She's going to bring in her expertise and I use my expertise. We write this paper together. If we're running an experiment, we bring in our colleague, Prof. Nikki, and she's the behavioral economist in our department, so she brings in the whole designing of the experiment and understanding, the information that you need to pull out when you're designing a survey, a questionnaire, or running the RCTs. And then Eleni will come in with sort of the the policy angle and interpreting the results. I'll come in with my development angle as well in interpreting results. And then you've got a paper. So in academia, it's really all about collaboration, That's why it's encouraged, because you are going to have a much more holistic sort of paper at the end. Rather than if you write it by yourself, you are more than welcome to publish single authored papers. I have a few. They take longer, I'll tell you that. They take a lot longer, but also sometimes you can sort of pick up the subjectiveness that's coming out in the paper, right? So yeah, so it's all about collaborating with the right people. What am I looking for here? Here we are. This is what I'm looking for. Okay, so are we all on the same page? All right, so with your data, you guys have all cleared, right? You've cleared your data, or even in the do file, I put clear all. I put set more all. This command here, which is important, allows you to have more observations. And because we are pulling in World Bank, which is a big data set, you will need to first put in that command so that Stata will accept a larger number of observations, right? Usually you don't need it if it's a small data set. I will. Preferences. There. Right? Yes, Pumzi. Oh, you were stretching. All right. So now I want you to pull in the WDI data from the Google folder. So you probably are going to have to download it and put it in the folder where it is. And you're going to use this command, right? So wherever, that's your directory. This is my directory. So in that do file, you have to change that to your directory, right? So an easy way to do it is, once you've downloaded, just first say file open, because this will be a command that will then come into your history. So you'll say open, and then find where your ERSA, where your WDI is. There's your WDI, and then you pull it in. So you pull it in, there's your WDI, and there's your command right there. So you can then copy that command. So it's pulling from your directory. It won't be my directory. This is my directory. So once you've downloaded your WDI or moved it from the Google folder. So it's in the Google folder, right? Yes.
Downloading it.
Okay.
Almost done.
Yes, exactly. So you can leave it in downloads if you want.
Okay.
Or if you have created a folder somewhere, you can put it there.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so then put it in that folder. Ah.
Yeah.
What happened? Did you pull it? Yeah. Okay, good. But it's your folder, right? Yeah. Yes. Okay.
So WDI.
Yes. WDI. Yeah. Then just, save it. Exactly. No, don't close. Don't close. Then go to File. Open. Yes, open. And then there's your WDI. Pull it in. Open. Voila. There's your data there. And then if you put in your history, you now have, or you can copy that and then put it in your, in your command. Exactly. All right. Have we all pulled in? Yeah, download it. You can pull it from your downloads. That will be your directory. But if you've created a folder already, you can just put it into your folder, and then that will be your. So are we all there? Okay. So you can change that directory to match yours in your do file, because tomorrow you're going to have to pull it in when you work on your empirical analysis. So that's my do file with my directory. Huh? I've put a do file already in the folder. Yes, but I didn't share the full do file because tomorrow you'll be adding your own stuff. So I'm just we're just merging the data sets now for today's practical. Tomorrow I'm going to ask you to merge in another data set, which then you can then run with it. Okay, are we all on the same page now? Okay, yeah, you two would be, right? Young minds. Yeah. Yeah, keep your do file open. All right, so we should have this, right? All our data. And can you see World Development Indicators? Look how they name their data. Right? This is the variable name, but they tell you what it means. It's trade and all of that, right? So we are also going to have to rename some of these variables to identify the variables we want to use, right? But for now, if we are all on this page, then we can move forward, right? So the problem with the World Bank data set is that it also includes regions. Yes, sub-Saharan. It includes regions with their data over time. And most of the other data sets don't do this, right? So when you're merging in, those regions become a problem. And they end up coming out in your twos or your ones to say it's not a perfect merge, right? So I've used it before, so that's why I just put the command, because I don't want you to waste time doing this. I want you to run this. We're just simply dropping the regions that we don't want in the World Development Banks, in the World Development data set, because we already know what we are merging. And I'm dropping using the ISO 3, right? You can drop if you want using country. Using what would they call it? Yeah, it would be country name using this. And then you say country name equals, and then you have to put in whatever it is. The reason why I use ISO 3 is because it's easier. Because sometimes the country name, if you get the spelling wrong, it's going to be wrong. It will say that particular country doesn't exist. Then you have to go into your data set to see, how do they name African AFEs, African Eastern region? How do they name Eastern Central region? All of that, right? So the ISO 3 is easier to use when you are creating or generating variables or dropping anything, right? So in this instance, all we want to do is we want to drop that. So if you highlight that in your do file, all of those drops, and you just run, it's going to drop all those regions. We don't want those. And like this WLD, that is world. So it's got like world and, how much GDP per capita was it for the world over the different years. We don't want that because the other data sets don't have those categories in them. That's all, yeah. We're just dropping. Pardon? Huh? No. You have to pull in WDI. There's a data set in the folder that's written WDI.
Yeah. What do you mean no? Supposed to.
Okay, so this is us cleaning. We are starting to clean our data set to prepare it for a merge, and we want the merge to be as close as possible. So that's why this is where I was saying you spend a lot of time, right? If you are using the World Bank for the first time, you would assume that all of this is the same across your data sets. You merge, and then you realize this is not a perfect merge. What's happening? Then you have to go into your data to start realizing that, these ISO 3s actually don't appear in the data set that I'm merging. Why is it? You then look at your data set, it shows you, well, actually this is capturing a region and not a country. Do I need it? No, I'm looking at country analysis. Let me drop it, and then you redo your merge. And so that's how you just do it. Trial and error.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so now we've all dropped, right? We've dropped our variables, all right. So now what we want to do is, it's a big data set in Stata. In Stata, we don't want all these variables, right? So for today, we are just going to take a GDP variable and trade and maybe this technology, right? So just copy that, right? Just copy that one. So we are renaming. Yeah, so we are renaming, so you can type that in your command. You're renaming that variable to be real GDP per capita. It's just for you to be able to identify it. You don't have to. If you know the naming convention, you can use it in your regressions the way it is, as NY underscore GDP underscore P and cap underscore KD. But it's quite a mission, right? Yeah, I know. I'm asking you to type it. I'm asking you to, that's why I highlighted it. I'm asking you to type it. And then you will put it into your do file so that tomorrow you'll know when you want to create your other variables. Because if I give you everything, you're not going to learn. So you pick up, you'll type that, you're going to get a red. I'll come and show you, no, you left.
Is it creating another do file?
No. No. So as we are doing this, you will then copy that and put it into your do file, your ERSA do file. And then you'll make a note to yourself that, okay, this is how I can create a variable or rename a variable. Like I said, it's not necessary. You can use it the way it is. But for me, it's very complicated, right? So this is just me showing you how you can rename variables. Because sometimes you'll get a data set where they've got a very long, complicated name. And every time you're now trying to use it in a regression or trying to use it in an analysis, remembering the name is just an issue. So you just rename it and you call it something easier to use, right? So let's do that one and then do the trade one. So we're going to rename it, yeah? That's me. I'm going to rename trade. I'm going to also secondary education. And by the way, you don't have to use my naming convention. Use your own. So you rename the variable. This is the variable in World Bank, and this is my name. So you're renaming old variable a new name that you can identify. So if you want to call it something else, you can call it, openness, but you must know when you're using it, what it was capturing, right? So even now you can call these anything you want that you will recognize, because when we do start using it and I say, okay, let's run a correlation with GDP per capita and trade, you have to then pull in how you named it. So you can follow this or you can use your own, right? So I said, let's do GDP, that's one, that's GDP per capita. We want trade. And then I want 138 secondary education. GDP per capita, rename, GDP per capita, rename. Yeah, this is GDP per capita.
Yeah, I can see how GDP.
Yeah, and then this one is trade. Yeah, so this is, and then education, secondary education. This one, secondary education. So tomorrow you can then you can include other variables if you want to use from World Bank. And we want investments, right? So if we're running a growth model, investments are important, yes.
So, Prof, like say, like this, it shows, say I want to work with the variable region, then under region I've got a number of variables. Is that what we're doing that side?
Which one? What?
For example, say it says region, as then under region I've got maybe 5 variables. So what?
You commented GDP based. It's just a comment.
No, so the star is just a comment to remind me that I was creating GDP variables. Yes, and that one I was creating a trade variable. Those are my technology variables. And then I've got, because you've got different measures of capturing the same variable, yeah, depending on the data, exactly.
Is it secondary school enrollment or secondary school duration?
Secondary school, I want you to use this one. Secondary school, this is gross secondary school enrollment. So this is why a lot of people who use World Bank, they would rather work in Excel, because then you can just clean the data nicely, because you can see the data, already change the data into into something easy to name. Because now, like this, how do I know that this was the variable for trade? If you don't know you don't know the naming convention, right? So it means you actually have to go to World Bank and then try and find. What I usually do is I just copy that, put it into World Bank. It tells me that's trade as a percentage of GDP, and then that's how I know. But also in your data file, you can see that each of these funny naming conventions they've used, it explains the label. So this is what I was saying, learn your data. So you would go through each and every one of these to see what it's capturing, to see, okay, is there a variable that I want? And then you pull that variable out, you rename it so that you know it's there, right? At the end, you can then just keep the variables you want. You don't need this massive data set, right? Yes?
So like, maybe I need something to remind myself. Is it okay if maybe I can change the level using the table between names and level to, like, for example, that table, not at the too far.
This one?
Yes. Is it okay to maybe like to have level, the one that can have small like assembly that we're doing?
Yeah.
So you can also rename this if you want to something that that will, exactly. So you can do that. You can even rename ISO 3 and say ISO code or country code. Some people like country code, yeah.
Africa 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on the type.
Prof, can you please bring back the thing? Yeah, to 5. Yes, thank you.
So, and please run these commands in your data set so that it's renaming them, because we are going to keep what we want to use and drop what we don't want to use. So we've got, okay, so so this is me. When like I said, you need to know your argument. You need to know your story before you start looking for your data, right? So for me, I want to run a growth model. And I know, according to the growth theories that we discussed, GDP per capita is a dependent variable. Solo says physical capital is important, so I'm going to look for physical capital. Population growth is important, or your labor force, I'm going to look for my proxies for population. Education is important, human capital, I look for education. Openness is important, I look for openness, right? I'm basing my choices of my model or the variables I'm choosing on a theoretical background, on a theoretical framework. So that's why it's important when you're writing your papers to have theoretical foundation or a framework from where you are starting, right? And then maybe your contribution is within this growth framework, I'm going to include institutions because there's no specific model that actually looks at the effect of institutions on economic growth. So, but then you'll have started by saying, I am extending this growth framework to include institutions. That is the importance of understanding and knowing the frameworks that are within your particular research. So if you are in the financial inclusion, there are frameworks that will explain the mechanisms of how, you know, financial inclusion works, right? If you are within the agricultural field, you are going to have certain theoretical frameworks that you can use to explain the mechanisms of how agriculture affects development outcomes or how development outcomes affect agriculture, right? If you are in any field, they will always have a theoretical foundation for you to start, you know, your analysis, and then what is your contribution within this theoretical framework. I don't know if I forgot anything, Eleni.
Not really. Eh? So, I mean, the confusion is, for me personally, one thing I do before going to the data is determine what I want. Right? So if you know you are working on sub-Saharan African countries and you want to look at, you know, the relationship between GDP per capita and let's say technology, right? These are the variables you need. Eh? So when you download the data from WDI, you can start from there. You don't need everything, yes. And take time to clean the data. Yeah. And honestly, you don't need a teacher to learn on how to work Stata, right? Your best friend is help. So if you don't know what she's doing, just put help and the command name, right? Mm-hmm. And you get the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, if you put Carol, just put help rename, right? Help rename. Then now you have already the help file. It will tell you what the command does. And if you go to at the bottom, right, it will even give you an example, right? So you can really teach yourself, right? You don't have to ask anyone. And always remember there are color codes for Stata, for both data and blue file. If in the blue file, if it's green, it's comment, right? I'm putting some explanation for myself or for my co-authors on what I'm doing, right? If it's blue, it's a command. If you see Prof. Carol blue file, rename is blue, right? Always.
Yes.
So it's a command, and you have the black for the variable names. So it will give you an idea of what you are doing, right? And labeling and renaming is something optional.
Yes, it is.
But you are making your coding quite efficient. Instead of typing all those long variables, if you put just PC GDP, right? It's GDP per capita, and you can be quick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So have we renamed our GDP, trade, and education? Can we just do this last one here? Investment, this one, GDP, please. It's that one and population growth, because it's a growth model. So these are the factors that I want to use because I'm following the growth models that we used. So there's the investment GDP, and then there's this one here, pop growth. If you can just have those ones.
So most of the time, these codes are font sensitive.
Yes, very, very font sensitive. And I can even show you, if I say rename, let's say, I do that one, and then instead, by mistake, I put dots. Maybe I didn't just take from there and I put dots, and I say rename it as com. You see, it's telling me no, there's nothing like that. But if I then do that, put it in with the right thing, it's run the command. So very sensitive to commas, dots, all of that. If there's a capital letter, put a capital letter. You have to use it the way you have named it. All right, have we created those? And hopefully I'll remember them. Okay, so I know already that the data set I'm merging only starts in 1970. So I am going to, and I know World Bank starts from 1960 all the way to 2020. This one was going up to, if you want to see your data, if you just say tab year, there, it shows you that this data is running from 1960, there we go, to 2020. You see, if you want to see the countries you have, you can say tab ISO 3 country. I think it will give me that. No, too many variables, it doesn't like it. So just say tab country. It will give you the list of all the countries in your data set, right? You can also tab that by ISO 3. It will give you the list of ISO 3s in your data set. And I'll show you where this becomes important in merging. So there are your ISO 3s, right? And there are your country names. Okay, so do we have those variables? Okay, then now we want to drop. We want to drop because the years start from 1960, we want to drop 1960 to 1969. So I'm telling Stata, like I say, Stata is intuitive. I'm telling Stata, drop everything if the year is less than 1970. Once you do that, if you go into your browser, the way I showed you in the morning, you'll see that your data now starts from 1970. Oh, sorry. Which one did you need?
After investment.
Okay, so investment was this one, and then pop growth was that one. Yeah, pop growth was that one. So we should have 5 variables: GDP per capita, trade, education, investments, and pop growth. Those are the ones we are going to keep to, and then we're going to get rid of all this jargon that's in our data set. Then you'll have a clean data set, right? But again, this is why I was saying I prefer to just, I could have done this on World Bank, where I can just filter quickly, pull out the data I want, and because in that filter, it's showing you the name as it is, it's easier, rather than this NY underscore blah, blah, blah. It's easier to do it in Excel. You've got your layout, you change your layout to long format, you remove the dots to have blank, you save your Excel sheet, then you just import it. It's already clean and ready to go, right? So make sure you're also copying these into your do file, right? Which I should also be doing, shouldn't I? No, but then I was then doing this. Anyway, okay. Where are we? Are we here? Okay. And drop if year is less than 9. Have we done this one? Okay. Yes, I will put this do file. I'll put this one. It will be called Stata Practical do file. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll put that one in. Okay. I want to do the merge before we go for lunch. So that when we come back, we can start playing around with our data. Are we all good? And then you dropped your year? What did we call investments? Investment GDP.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we haven't yet. So have we done everything? Created? Don't drop anything. Dropped your year? Yeah. Okay. So now what I want us to do is that command. We want to keep the information that we want to use. So we want our ISO 3. We want the country name. We want the region, because they have allocated the regions to every country in World Bank. So, you know, your European countries will have European and Central Asia. Sub-Saharan Africa has got Sub-Saharan Africa, SSF. So we want to keep that, because you can use that in your analysis when you want to do comparisons. You can pull your countries and say, oh, okay, I want to compare Sub-Saharan Africa with Europe and Asia, right? So we need those region names or region codes, right? So that's why we are keeping them. They've also got income level, where they classify each country as high income, upper income, lower income. We need that, because if you can also do comparative analysis where you look at the differences between high income versus lower income countries. So we want to keep that category. If you are interested in admin and all of that, you can keep it, but I'm not going to use that here. And then after that, we want to keep our year. Our year is important. And then those 5 variables that you created, whatever you named them. Yeah, exactly. This is what we want to keep. And if you press enter, there's your data. There's your data. And it's now a small and manageable. Yes.
The same growth we could have
Done.
avoided all of this by cleaning the soil extra, right?
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I was saying, right? That some people are good at seeing the data and coding and cleaning in Stata. And then others, you just prefer to do it step by step. So this is what I've downloaded. These are my countries. Okay, I can even create my ID in Excel. You don't have to generate it here. You can create it in Excel, and then you've cleaned it, and then you send it to Stata. Yes?
Following this question, for the assignments, can we do this?
Yeah. It's up to you. But then why I was doing it like this is because you're using all the countries in World Bank. So that's why it becomes big. But if you've got like a few countries, you can literally do it but you can still do it. I mean, you saw it on World Bank. You can just click all countries and then just choose the few variables you want and the years you want, and you download it like that, right? And it's already clean. It's already ready to use it in Stata. Tawani, you had your hand up.
Yes, I did. Okay, I was I left behind the Drupal part, the naming part, but anyway, I will catch up.
Okay. Are your colleagues there? Are you Love More? Are you guys? Did you do the rename? Okay, so you do need to have these renames here. Those renames, yeah. Can you see it? So keep these variables. Yes, so this is where it's critical. You have to save this as a different name. Because if you save this data set under the same, you've overwritten and you've lost all your data. So this is why I'm saying we are cleaning our data sets and we are creating a new data set which you will save as a different name, so that when you do start using your data and you realize, oh, I need to pull that in, you can go back. You've already got your do file. So all you include, you just type in rename this other variable to be part of this. You include it in your keep command and then you save it under your data set. So always keep your original data set separate, because you are always going to go back. I don't know how many times I've done that mistake and realized I've saved over the original, and then I have to restart the whole process of downloading, cleaning, and everything. So very critical. So that's what we are going to do after this, right? You can see that I said sort. So you want to sort by your ISO 3 and year, and then you want to save it as a different data set. So do that, and then we save it, because that's what we're going to use to merge in. Oh, you want the save, sorry. You can just say file save in here. Yes, it will save where you opened your data set. So that same drive, it should save there, in that same folder or place where you opened your data set. I just want to quickly So have we done all of this? And we should all be at this point now where we have saved and we've got a WDI sorted in your do file. So you've got a WDI sorted.dta in your folder. Okay? All right. Okay. So now, I just wanted you to work through that so that, next time you're able to do it. So now I've put the Stata practical do file in the folder. So we can open that now because it's got all the commands.
What's the replace for?
Huh?
The replace for on line 160. When you save the WDI sorted.
Oh, it's replace. So every time you run it, it will replace the old WDI. So let's say you made a mistake in a previous one, right? And you want to rerun everything, add another variable, but you still want to use the same, you save it as the same name. So it's just going to replace that old one. Yeah. All right. Are we all there?
Yes.
Still,
Yeah, I just called it sorted to remind me that this is the one where I've already sorted the data by ISO 3 and year. Yes.
So when you click file, is it save or save as?
You click file and it's save as. If you click file, it's save as because you're going to name it a different. If you just say save, it's going to save over, and then you lose your original data set. Yeah. Are we at the same page? All right. So now that you've got this, you can close your ERSA do, save it, close your ERSA do file, and let's pull in the Stata practical do file so that we can merge in, because it's got all the commands. And I had already discussed how to clean your data set so that they match for the merge. All right, so you pull out your Stata practical do file, whether you have to download it or put it in your folder where all those data sets are. And you'll need your globalization index data as well. You'll need your globalization index data.
So we've got to.
Yeah, so pull it out from your folders and put it into your, where you need your folders, right? So you've saved, no, so your WDI sorted is there. You need the practical, the Stata practical do file that I just put into the folder. It's called Stata practical do file. So you need to put that into your working folder, right? Okay, so that's the one I now want you to open, that do file. That's the one I want you to open now. And if your globalization index is within that same directory where you pulled out your WDI, you will see that you don't need to tell Stata again to use the same directory. You're just telling Stata, I'm still working in the same directory, but now I want you to bring in globalization index data, right? So you're going to clear. Clear means it's going to remove what you've just done, which is why it's always critical to save your work. All right, it's there. Your WDI sorted data is ready for the merge. Now we want to bring in a globalization index because you want to use this measure within your analysis. There are interesting variables that you want within this data set. Again, you have to read through the data set, go through the code. On every website where you get the data set, they will have a code book that identifies what that variable is measuring and how they are measuring it and the methodology they used. These are always important when you're writing up your data set, right? So I want you to run this and pull in your globalization index. Mine is not coming in. Why are you not coming in? Because I'm in the wrong folder, so that's fine. I'll just pull it in by myself. There we go. Okay, so there's my globalization index. Again, you can see it's a massive data set. We don't want all those variables, right? So now you should have your globalization index data showing in your data set. Actually, the Stata practical do file has that, right? So you can literally just highlight and run it. You don't have to, copy and, type anymore. So once you've got your do file open, you'll see that I said keep. What am I doing with the keep command? What am I doing with the keep command? Exactly. I'm choosing the variables I want. I don't want all of those variables. I just want these key ones. And of course, I've gone through my code book. I know what each one is measuring. I'm going to rename them later for me, or I can use them like that. If you're good, with I'm terrible at remembering. So I'll be like, oh, I want economic globalization. Oh, how did they name it now? So for me, that's where my issue comes in. So that's why I rename them. Then I know that this is globalization. This is econ glob. This is trade. This is financial globalization, social. I don't even know what that is. I don't know what that is. You see, I've forgotten. Political, culture. This is culture, So I rename them so that I remember what they are. That's the whole reason for me using that command. Otherwise, for some people, they know. I see my students, they'll come in and they'll have all these, they'll just have left their variables in weird names, but they'll know what it's measuring. They'll say, oh, and I'll say, okay, which one is measuring education? They'll be like, oh, it's this one here, So it is. Have you pulled in your data? Right? And then run the keep code. So if you just highlight it and you click your arrow, you've run the, okay. And then look at this. In this data set, they don't have an ISO 3. But what they have called it in globalization, if we go to browse, they've called it code. But in our World Bank, what was it called? Exactly. And if we are going to merge by ISO 3, then both data sets must have an ISO 3. So what are you going to do? Simply rename code to ISO 3 so that they match. That is all it is. So that's the command. So you can put these notes to yourself. Again here, matching, naming, convention of ISO 3 or country codes, of country codes. I didn't put a star. If you don't put a star, Stata, when you run Stata, it will say, I don't know what you're trying to tell me here. So put a star. Yeah. So I just, and then the other thing as well I noticed was that in WDI, they called country name. Here it's just called country. So again, I just renamed and I said, okay, rename country to country name so that it matches with WDI, the data set that I want to merge. So you want to really minimize as many merge errors as possible. This is all we are doing. This is why we say we clean the data. We understand the data before we merge them.
When you keep, does it then automatically drop?
Yes. When you keep, which is why it's not people don't like using keep because you lose all that, right? So be careful when you use that command keep. Make sure you are really, and I've done that so often, even now when I was running this, I kept and I forgot to keep the year. And then I'm merging on the year. So then I'm like, oh my gosh, and then I tried to merge and then it said, what? There's no year. Then I'm like, what? I had to go back and rerun this and include year. So you always have to be careful with keep. Again, which brings us to why some of us prefer to first do it in Excel. And then, and then we put, so even in Excel, right, I will have my WDI and then I will just copy and paste my my globalization because it's already structured. A lot of this data is already in long format, and if they're doing global countries, they'll be similar. It will just be one or two countries here that are not the same. So, you can, and most of the times we are not using global data. We are using regional data. So it's even easier. So I find that Stata, when I am using global data, I do prefer to clean it in Stata because there are just too many countries. I'm looking at 183 countries over 40, 50 years. So that's a lot for me to pick up that, WDI as Suriname as a country, the globalization doesn't even have that. And this is what you'll see what I did here, where I said the next command. So have you run this command? Rename and rename country. You have to run it. Run those commands. Run your keep, run the rename and all of that. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to drop. So you'll see what I said, unmatched ISO 3. How did I know that they were unmatched? all I simply did was I took the ISO 3s from, so I took the ISO 3s from KOF, the globalization, and my main data set, which was WDI, and I put them together. So I simply did this. I said tab ISO 3, and then I copied them and I put it in Excel. I did the same with WDI. I copied them and I put them in Excel. Then I started matching. And then I picked up, as you can see where I said drop, I picked out, okay, that doesn't exist, that doesn't exist, that doesn't exist. So I'm matching. Can you see? I'm matching my ISO 3s. Wherever one was appearing in this data set and it wasn't appearing in the other one, I would drop it because they are not matching. So that's all I did. So, and then I created my command. So these are all the unmatched ISO 3s in KOF. So we run that command. Give me 5 minutes. It's my brother. He's dropping off sweet potatoes from Zim. So, okay, oh, he said see you in 10. Okay, let me say, give me 10 minutes. We're almost done. Give me 10 minutes. Oh my God, he's going to be upset with me because he's also coming from work. Yeah, my mom sent via the bus sweet potatoes and what is Nemo in English? Round nuts, and yeah, that's what she saw. She yes. So she always sends, and you know, I don't want to lie, sweet potatoes from Zim are the best, guys. You have to try them. They're not watery, they are thick, and you have to eat them drinking tea because you'll choke. That's how nice they are. So I'm quite excited about the sweet potatoes. All right, okay. I will share. I don't mind sharing. He says it's quite a big pocket. He said it's quite a big pocket. Yeah. Okay, so we've dropped that, right? Okay, and then look what I did here. Yes.
Why you are dropping all those unmatched codes? You want to do a perfect match?
Yes, I want to do a perfect match. You don't necessarily have to drop. Yes, you don't. So what will happen is if you don't drop them, when you do the merge, you'll have an underscore merge 2 and an underscore merge 1. These two categories will just tell you that these are not perfect matches. Underscore merge 3 is a perfect match. So Prof. Elaine is quite correct. You don't have to do this. It will still merge, right? And you can still use your data. So I just like, I've got OCD. I like a perfect match. So, and it's not going to be perfect. You'll see at the end, right? So we've dropped them. And then here's the other issue. Why am I replacing? Because in this particular data set, they were calling Zaire, they were calling DRC Zaire. In WDI, it's called COD. So there you do have to match those because the country is in the data set, but it's not going to match because the Stata won't identify Zaire as being Democratic Republic of Congo if you are merging on the ISO 3. If you're merging, and again, this is why I prefer the ISO 3, because it's easier to pick up those differences. If you're merging on the name, the spelling becomes a problem. They may both be using Zaire, but in one they've used a tiny Z, in another one a big Z. Again, Stata won't pick that up. You see, so that's why I prefer the ISO code. But I mean, if you want to try the country ones, you do the same thing. Tab your country names, compare them in Excel to see that the spelling is exactly identical. Yes, Pumzi, you had?
I'm a bit confused now. In my mind, I thought that what we were doing there was because what you said, they are not matching with something like that. What is not matching?
You won't find this. So this has got a country that is not in another data set. That's why I'm dropping it, because it's not in that other country set. But Eleni is right. Even if it's not there, you can keep it. it doesn't matter.
You can keep it, but the system will not estimate anything on it.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So what it won't have, so all of these all those that I'm dropping, what they won't have is the data from WDI. All the GDP, what we created, it won't, those countries or islands won't have that data. So when you run your estimation, they're going to be dropped anyway by Stata because they don't have that data. So that's why Prof. Eleni is like, you don't have to waste time dropping and doing all of this. Just merge, because Stata anyway drops what it can't. If it doesn't have data, Stata will drop it, right? Exactly. But the replace is important.
It doesn't automatically drop it if you don't do what Carol is doing. Yeah? What it could do is it will create a variable called merge, which will have 3 values, 1, 2, 3, right? So if the value is 3, which means you have the country data in both data
Yes,
sets, right?
it's a perfect match.
So you can simply say keep if my merge variable is equal to 3. Yeah? And if you want to see what's going on, which Iceland are not having data from WDR,
Yes.
you just tabulate the merge variable, right? If the value is 2, which means it's missing in the using file, you just investigate. Yeah.
Exactly.
So in other words, you can drop in one command the entire thing instead of putting the list.
Yes, you can. So you can drop after the merge, where you say drop if underscore merge equal 2. Drop if underscore merge equal 1. You can do that. So I've got the command at the end.
If you start, Carol's method is actually good because you know what's really going on.
Yes.
Sometimes you do things automatically, right? And you end up with a bad data for your analysis without knowing what data is being behind. So it seems long, but I would recommend this approach if you are just starting.
Because what I discovered as well is that, and I learned this, which is why sometimes I do this, is sometimes you have this issue, right? So if I don't go through like this, I'm going to assume this will come in as an underscore equal 1 or 2, and then I'm dropping, assuming that there's no DRC in one of the data sets, but it's not the case. The case is that I just need to replace and call it the same thing so that Stata can identify. So that's why, we say you do spend a lot of time doing your data, understanding it. And, in the end, remember, at the end of the day, you do want to have more observations. So now imagine if I had dropped all of these, this could be over 1,000 observations that I've dropped from my data set. Whereas it was something that I could easily have said, oh, no, here is the country. It's just called this, call it this so that you can merge. Yeah, so as I was going through this, I was also picking that up. I had actually dropped this. I had dropped this and this. And then when I put them together and then looked at what the ISO codes, which countries it was calling, I realized, oh, actually it's the same country, but it's just got different naming convention for ISO 3. So I had to go back, pull in the data, and then just tell the data that match these. Okay, so have we replaced? All right, so now we simply rename, right? So just run that, rename, you're going to sort, and you're going to save your data set, right? And then we are going to merge. So now you'll be happy, your data sets are matching, you're relatively comfortable, then you're like, okay, let's start now with the merging, where all the fun happens. So just run that, tell me when you're done. So, let's now run the merge. So you're going to bring in your data file. Okay, mine is being funny, so I'll have to, I hope it will, it's my folder. I hope it will bring it in, but it should run for you guys, hey? Just run up to merge using KOF sorted up to there. Because I want to show you what Eleni was telling you about the underscore merge. Yeah. Okay. So then if you tab your underscore merge, it will show you that 8,000 observations merged. You've got one that is 1 and 2. One is in the using data set and it's not in the merging data set. One is in the merging data set and it's not in the using data set. So you can try and see what's happening, right? So you can see, I think you say tab if underscore merge equal to, what is it? Or is it, is it edit?
If you say tab, I don't have to
Oh, yeah. This one. Yeah. So something happened here. Oh, you know what I did? I didn't run the replace. I didn't run the replace in mine. Okay. Sorry, I didn't run my own data, so it wasn't, I didn't clean my data properly using the commands that I gave you guys. Okay. Did it merge?
Yes, very much.
Yeah. Save your merge data. All right. So up to there. There we go. If we tab, there we go. So if you tab your underscore merge, it shows you that one, you do have some countries that are not appearing in your using data. Doesn't matter. But this is the critical one. So you've got a nice merge with your 3. Most of your observations are there. So you can drop underscore merge if you want. It's just a column that shows you the merge, or you can keep it there. It doesn't matter. I will drop it. And then I'll save your ERSA data, okay? And then we can take a lunch break. Because now we have our data set that we're going to use after lunch. Command duplicates drop. Sometimes when you merge, you'll find that your data has duplicated variables somehow. So you might end up with Eritrea having 2 1990s. In panel, you can't have that because that means there's repeated time variables. So that's why I put that command duplicates drop. If you run it and it says 0, you've got a nice merge, right? You don't have any issues. If you run it and you see it says you've got duplicates, then you need to go into your data set to see what is being duplicated. So you would say, I think you'd say edit duplicates or tab duplicates. It's one of them. Yeah, duplicate report. And then it will show you the countries or the municipalities that are being duplicated and which year it is. And then if you go into your data set, you'll actually see that it's duplicating that, it's a repeated time variable, and it's capturing the same data most of the time. So you can drop duplicates.
Yeah. But remember, when you use duplicate drop, Stata is dropping the observation, right? Random. Yeah. So you have to be very careful.
Careful, yeah, very careful.
First, you have to say duplicate report and input your key variable and see which observations have duplicate and understand why. Otherwise, you are just forcing Stata to drop one observation for a area, right? That could be the observation actually that have more information for your analysis.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't include the duplicate drop in my do file, right? Just put duplicate report with your key variables, understand why it's duplicated, and ask Stata to drop it after you understand, what's going on.
Yeah.
Then you can then ask Stata to drop specific.
Easily, yeah. The duplicates report is actually the more important than duplicates drop. Yeah, so if the duplicates report, if there's nothing to report, it will tell you there's nothing. So you know that there is no, everything is okay. Yes.
I have a question with regards to the TAPNet table. I just want to know, why was my total different from yours? Could it be that maybe I included some things that were not there?
Probably, yeah, probably. So I'd have to. Yeah, so I put that here in the do file at the end to explain. Here we go. This variable provides information about how observations were matched during the merge. So if you have an underscore merge equals 3, it means it's successfully matched. If it's underscore 2, it means it's present in the using data set and it's not in the other one, right? So if you don't have an underscore 2, it means that in our case, we didn't have that issue. Underscore 1, it means that it is in the master data set. And then, so in our case, so I was saying in our case, what you'd find, well, in my case, I should say, so in our case, the years of that particular observation only appear in the master data set. They don't appear in the using data set, right? And underscore 2, it's appearing in the using data set, but it's not in the master data set. Yeah. So sometimes you can have all 3, 1, 2, and 3 coming out. Sometimes it's only the 1, or sometimes it's only 1 and 3, or 2 and 3. Right? But that 3 is very important because the 3 should ideally have most of your observations there. So I'm not worried because I'm only I don't have 102 observations that may not appear in my analysis. That's not a critical problem. And, reviewers know this. So, does it make sense?
I think it's because, when you were telling us, we only selected few variables.
Yes.
Of the model you had because I see the 3, it's similar, it's something different.
On the ones, exactly. So, you can practice this tonight, just merging your data sets and all of that, right? Because tomorrow I'm going to want you to merge in institutional variable data set, and you're going to follow the same thing. So you've got your code here already. Okay, so we can take a break now, and then when we come back, we're going to start playing with our data. We're going to show you how to generate variables, create dummies, run graphs and regressions, and produce output tables. Yeah. So my code for producing tables is different to the code that maybe Eleni will use. So she will probably come and say, oh, you can use STAB as well. So there are always many ways to get to the same output. And as both Elaine and I have said, help really works, YouTube really works, and Google as well. So yeah. So okay. So let's take our break.